Because of the cross, Jesus reconciles us to God. Because we've been reconciled to God, forgiven, cleansed, all the barriers between us and God have been dealt with, right? Because of that, we can be reconciled to one another. Because of that, all of the differences we might have can be remedied through Christ. I was thinking, Joseph had to suffer before he was exalted. Jesus suffered, is now exalted. Joseph's brothers had to humble themselves and acknowledge their need before they could receive the provision that Joseph offered. They had to believe and take action. Joseph said, you go home, you get the rest of the family and everything you have, and you come and I will provide for you. They had to be willing to acknowledge, without Joseph, we're going to die. What's at stake? Their life was at stake. Well, we're talking about reconciling and resolving differences. Look around you and see that people are different. People are different. Some of you have been married for a while, and you're still different. Those differences don't evaporate over time. In fact, they often get accentuated, right? They often get accentuated. Well, this morning, I didn't. I borrowed. I didn't bring it here. It was here. Some of you can recognize, how many of you kind of know what this is? Some of you may not know. This is a furnace filter. And every furnace has one of these. Do you know why the first of the year I replace my furnace filter? And usually when the air conditioning time comes, middle of, June, July, I replace them. You know why we do that? We do that because of what will happen if you don't replace it. Some of you, let me just double check. How many of you get the oil changed on your car? How many of you get Why do you do that? Why do you do that? Well, it's because of what could happen if you don't. Okay? What we call it is preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance. You do something before. If you don't do preventative maintenance, there's the possibility and likely probability that while those cost money, while changing your oil costs money, if you don't, the cost down the road will be much greater. One of my greatest causes for anxiety in my life is going to the dentist. In the sovereign plan of God, I married a woman whose father was a dentist. We have different views when it comes to dentists, okay? And I spent many years not going to the dentist. When I finished high school, going to the dentist was not a key factor in my thinking. It was in my mid-late 20s when I finally figured out preventative maintenance, going to the dentist for regular checkups and regular cleanings, that's a good idea. I'm working through Philippians as preventative maintenance for you. Paul didn't write it for preventative maintenance. The issue was already there, and he's trying to mitigate the damages and having them resolve the difference before it leads to division. Now, I've talked to you about the reality that we have differences. They're unavoidable, but they don't need to lead to conflict. But if they do, conflict doesn't need to lead to division. You've heard this statement. You can lead a horse to water, I'm not sure that statement's totally correct. How many of you have ever been around horses and been involved with horses? Okay? Let me ask you a question. If you have a horse that doesn't want to go to the water, can you lead the horse there? I had exposure. We had horses when I was a kid. And if that horse doesn't want to go, I'm not strong enough to lead that horse anywhere they don't want to go. After I moved to Ann Arbor, and after a month or two got a feel for the reality of the church that I was pastoring and realized the history and the patterns, I had a meeting with our leaders, and I shared a fairly profound statement that I want to share with you today. I sat down with the leaders and I said, listen to me, man, listen to me. I can't lead you where you don't want to go. I can't. Do I have leadership abilities? Yes. Have I demonstrated leadership in my previous ministries? Yes. But if you don't want to go there, I can't lead you there. We have to agree on where we want to go. Successful partnerships require a commitment to others, to putting the life of Jesus into practice. And our key here in chapter 4 is wholeness. And if you have conflict that's going to lead to division, that's not wholeness. That's fractured. The key is to think properly. And the first 3 chapters have all been leading up to chapter 4. All that Paul has written them has been pointing and leading and preparing them for this in chapter 4. And Paul wants them to know that they need to protect their partnership. They need to understand that uniformity is not God's plan. Conformity is God's plan. And what we have is partners with purpose. Now, I won't bring the whiteboard out this morning, but I've drawn it for you several times. And the key question on the map is, where do you want to go? You've got to have purpose. But you also have to have partners. You have to be related, connected. Partners with purpose. So the enemy will attack us and either get us off track with our purpose, where we're going, or he'll undermine from within, causing turmoil amongst the partners. So we need to protect our purpose, and we need to protect our partners. So here in chapter 4, there's really 5, but I'll get to that. There's 4 exhortations, all focused on reconciling and resolving a difference. Now, we said last week, Ephesians chapter 4, how important is unity to God? Ephesians 4, 1, 1, 1. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, 1, 1, 1, 1. And Paul said, how important is unity? Well, if you have time, try to maintain it. No. Paul said, make every effort. Well, this morning, I knew last night that we were apt to get a bit of snow overnight and into the morning, and so I decided, I don't really care. If I'm late, I'm late. We get snow, we get snow. I'm not leaving early for them people. I need my sleep. No, I made an extra effort. I left a little earlier to be here on time. Was it costly? Well, I need my sleep. Not real. Paul said, make every effort. You know what every means? Yeah, but that could cost me some time. Make every effort. Yeah, but when they come to me, no, make every effort to maintain. We don't create the unity, we're called to maintain it. Well, I told you last week that today I would share with you the secret of what 99% of Christians don't know. They don't know what the difference was here in chapter 4. I'm going to share it with you today. I'm going to share it with you. And if you thought I was telling you the truth, then you don't know me very well. Because I don't know what the difference was, but I have an idea. I think it's possible that the two ladies, one of them wanted to give the total missions budget to Paul. Paul had started the church, but the other lady thought that no. We need to expand our missions budget, and we should give 30% to Epaphroditus because he's our messenger. And another option is we should give 40% of our missions budget to start a new church. Any of those options wrong? It's hypothetical. Don't take me too seriously. It's hypothetical. I could give you 50 examples of what the difference could be. I could give you 50 examples of differences that you could have here in this church with this congregation. Well, I don't like having 2 services. Well, I don't like the way they put those chairs. Well, I don't like this floor. Well, I don't like the way they set up the stage. And I don't like that whiteboard. And I don't like that. And I don't like that. And I don't like that. And I don't even like the color of those chairs. In fact, I don't even like chairs. And I don't like this pastor guy I don't like the way the elders do this. And I don't like the way they do this. And I don't like the way they serve communion. Why doesn't Paul name the issue? Does he know the issue? Oh, yeah. And he knows the parties that are closest to the issue. Because the issue is not the real issue. Is that not true in your life? Is that not true in your life? I've had times where what is wrong with her? And she did something this big, that set me off. Now you know just how human I can be. I'm glad you're not like me. And I can say something, and I can do something, I cannot do something, I cannot say, you know what? That wasn't the issue. It's usually something deeper, more significant. The issue is maintaining unity and reconciling the issue. The issue itself is generally not the issue. Chapter 3, Paul named the issue, right? Those evildoers who say you can be righteous by, and he names it. Why? Because that's a biblical issue at the very heart of the gospel. And if it's a bit, we need to clarify, is this a biblical issue or not a biblical issue? Because if it's clear in the Bible, one of our values is we're committed to the authority of Scripture. Am I right? Is this a Bible church? Is this a Bible church? The Bible's clear, we want to be clear. And we all understand the Bible correctly, right? Thank you. If it's a biblical issue, we need to work it out, and we want to follow the Bible. Whatever the issue is in Philippians chapter 4 between the two women is not a biblical issue, because if it was, Paul would have named it. Do you know most of the issues and differences you have in this church will not be biblical issues? The problem is sometimes we think it's a biblical issue when it's not. So the dear woman, I can close my eyes and see her. And she meant well, I'm sure. Pastor, we are not a church. We are not a church until we have a Sunday night service. We are not a church. Biblical issue? She thought so. She thought so. Exhortation number 1, maintain unity. Number 2, by the way, I'll just tell you ahead of time. Today's message is really simple and really easy. Relax. It's easy. Easy. You're going to understand. I'm going to share 2 more exhortations with you this morning, and you're not going to have any problem understanding them. You're just going to have a problem doing them. Paul says, verse 4, rejoice in the Lord always. All right, I tell you it's easy. What does it mean to rejoice? What does it mean to rejoice? Well, it means to rejoice, to be glad, to be happy, to express joy. Okay? By the way, you know that part of the reasoning behind singing is to have you rejoice. It's the power of the cross. We rejoice in that. Now, some of you rejoice differently than others. Some of you rejoice just internally. That's okay. And some of you are different. Well, all of you are different, frankly. But some of you rejoice and you want to express that joy. Okay? I found that most people, given a lack of feeling like too self-aware, joy is usually something that you can see and is expressed, right? So, for example, somebody has a new baby, and when somebody shares the news with us and says, oh, so-and-so had it, here's my new baby, and we go, it's nice. Somebody got engaged. Oh, good for you. No, rejoicing is usually evident. Now, notice verse 4. Paul says, rejoice in the Lord. Don't miss that. When? Do I need to define that for you? If I don't need to define every, I probably don't need to define always. And then he says, let me say it again. Now, my father used to have a phrase when he would give instruction and the child, not me, I always responded correctly, but if the child didn't respond right away, my father had this phrase that he would look at you and he'd say, I'm not going to say it twice. Like if I said it once, that should be sufficient. You know what Paul does here? I'm going to say it twice. Why would he say it twice? Because it was important to him, and it was important for them, and he wanted to make sure they didn't miss it. Rejoice in the Lord always. So my question is this: why rejoice? What reason do you have to be joyful? Well, if you look at everything on this slide, you can trace everything in this slide to the first 3 chapters in Philippians. He has reminded them, he has told them, he has given examples, he has told them right from the beginning. Chapter 1, verse 6, he who began a good work in you is going to complete it. Can you rejoice in that? Oh, yes, you can. If I continue living, it means fruitful labor for you. Righteousness is a gift. Can you rejoice in that? Paul says we can know him, chapter 3. We press on to know him. We can forget the past. Euodia and Syntyche have had significant ministries. Jesus is bringing everything under his control. Here are multiple reasons to rejoice. Things Paul has already mentioned. Did you know that rejoicing has a high probability of keeping me from being critical, negative, and judgmental? If I choose to rejoice and to be grateful, it's really hard in the same sentence to be critical, judgmental, and negative. But we're human, right? There were a couple of old friends who bumped into each other one day on the street, and the one fellow looked really quite sad and discouraged, almost on the verge of tears. So his friend said to him, man, what's the world done to you, man? You don't look so well. And the sad fellow said, well, 3 weeks ago, a rich uncle of mine died. And to my surprise, he included me in his will, and the lawyer sent me a check for $40,000. That's terrific, his friend told him. That's terrific, man. That's a lot of money. Yeah, he said, but 2 weeks ago, they sent me another check. This time it was for $100,000. The friend said, wow, that's incredible. You've been blessed. You don't understand. You don't understand, the man said. Last week I got another check in the mail. It was larger than the first two. It was for $250,000. His friend was getting pretty confused. And he said, man, you're right. I don't understand. How come you're so unhappy? Why do you look so grim? And the friend said, because this week I haven't received anything. That's you and me. That's you and me. Paul says, rejoice. Rejoice. It's in every chapter. And Paul was writing from where? And he's rejoicing. Now, I don't think any of you are in prison today. Not physically. How's your attitude? Are you rejoicing today? In the midst of a difference with another person, this is a choice. It is not a feeling that we wait for. This is an exhortation, not to a feeling, but to an action. And often that action needs to be accompanied by our words. Rejoice. Hard to understand? Nope. Nope. And you know how many things can get me into complaining instead of rejoicing? Snow. Snow can do that to me. Somebody losing a game, that can do it to me. My car not working properly, that can do it to me. My income tax return not being what I expected, that can do it to me. Doesn't take much. Maintain unity. You're on the same team. Maintain it. Number 2, always rejoice. Number 3, another simple one. Another simple one. Verse 5, let your gentleness, your reasonableness be evident to the people you like. Gosh, Paul, can't you broaden your vocabulary? Every, always, all. Can't you need a thesaurus? Can't you come up with something else? If differences aren't resolved, let me tell you what happens. The natural, normal response when differences go unresolved, people choose sides. It becomes us versus them. You know, our culture knows. Politicians know. All I have to do is criticize them, and we become polarized. We become polarized. I don't have to tell you what I stand for. I just criticize and tell you how bad they are. Us versus them. This word, I love the way one commentator puts it. Sweet reasonableness. That's a great quality. Somebody who demonstrates this is somebody you generally will like to be around. Several years ago, I had an aunt and uncle who separated after 40 years of marriage. 3 children, my cousins, a boy, a girl, and a boy. 3 kids. The oldest, the son, he sided and supported dad. The daughter, she sided and supported mom. And they both lobbied to child number 3. Pick one. I'll give you reasons. I'll tell you things maybe you didn't know. Pick one. And I remember my cousin talking to me and utterly frustrated and came to this conclusion. I'm not picking sides. I'm not picking sides. Charitable towards people's faults, willingness to yield under trial, refusal to retaliate. What does that look like? By the way, sweet reasonableness, gentleness is something you do. It's something you do. It's not something you say, it's something you do. How is it demonstrated? What does it look like? Let me give you a couple of ideas, see if these make sense. I think one of the things that gentleness and sweet reasonableness looks like is when you assume positives and not negatives. Somebody comes to me and says, "Did you hear what so-and-so did?" No, I hadn't heard that. That doesn't sound like the person I know. And I know him or her, and I give them the benefit of the doubt. By the way, how many of you want people to give you the benefit of the doubt? If they heard something, you want them to give you the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, we all want that. Gentleness is demonstrated by assuming positives, not negatives. Now, could it be true? Yes. But I'm not going to react and act on that. I'm going to assume the positive, and if it's something of any significance, what do? You go tell somebody else. See if they've heard it. No, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Jesus talked one day about if a fox had its tail on fire and ran through a cornfield, how do you stop that? Yeah, that's what gossip does. It's hard to corral that once it gets going. If it's something of any significance, go to the person. I was told this, is it true? If it's not consequential, I don't really want to hear it. I don't really want to hear it. What I want is the best for you. What I want for you is maturity. I want you to grow in knowing Jesus. And I don't have time to be chasing all this other stuff. Notice Paul says, demonstrate gentleness to whom? I'll just tell you, I'm human enough. I have a normal tendency to have favorites. I have a normal tendency to like certain people over other people. Don't be like that, right? You wouldn't do that, would you? Yes, you would. You married somebody because you gave them preference over other people. You give preference to your own children over the neighbor's kids. It's normal to do that. Paul says, you demonstrate this quality to everybody. Oh, I find it's easy to be charitable to the people I like. And here's another thing that gentleness does. Gentleness causes us to realize, I don't know your motives. I don't know other people's motives. Most of the time, I don't know my own motives. Somebody says, well, did you hear this? I know why they did that. Whenever I hear that, I want to say this. I don't always, but hopefully most of the time say, whoa, how do you know their motive? Well, it's pretty, no. How do you know? Did they tell you that's why they're doing that? If they didn't explicitly tell you, and even if they did, they may not know their own motives. We don't know other people's motives. Well, I know why Yodia wants that. I know why she wants to give part of the budget to Epaphroditus. I know why. No, you don't. No, you don't. We can't be certain of other people's motives. I had an interesting thought this week. I thought, what if Yodia was related to Epaphroditus? What if he was her nephew and whatever the difference had to do with Epaphroditus? Do you think she could be objective about her nephew? As far as we know, Yodia wasn't married. So what if he was her nephew? I'm not objective about the people I really care about. I'm not. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter. I'm not objective. I mean, she's cute, and she's smart, and she's advanced, and she's the best 2-year-old ever, but I'm not totally objective. Look at what Paul says. Let your gentleness be evident to all. Then he says this, the Lord is near. What? The Lord is near. I think that could mean one of two things. One of the things it could mean is, don't forget Jesus could return anytime. His return is soon. And if Jesus is returning soon, you don't want to be unreconciled. You don't want this difference to get out of hand. Because Jesus is coming, and then you're going to have to explain it to him. The Lord is near. Is that true? Yes. Near is a relative term. But it could be today. It could be today. The other option is, what he might mean by the Lord is near is that he's right here near. His presence is right here. He knows, he sees, he hears, he knows your heart, he knows your thoughts, he's heard everything you've said. He is right here. Now, if I had a good relationship with Yodia, if I had been a part of a group that met in her home, I'm apt to defend her, support her, be charitable towards her, and interpret events and actions and words through that lens. And to be objective about synthesis would be really hard for me, right? Right? Let me remind you of a story in Jesus' life. Just before he goes to the cross, he has one of his last experiences with his disciples, and they go to this place to celebrate Passover, and when they get there, there's no servant. John 13, if you ever want to go back and review that, and Jesus meets with the disciples, and there's no servant, and they all sit down, and they're all looking around, understanding there's no servant, and what does Jesus do? He goes and he grabs the servant's towel and he wraps it around himself and he gets the basin of water and he kneels and he washes their feet. Washes their feet. And he does Peter, James, and John, and then he gets over to Matthew and he says, your past is pretty sordid. Not sure I want to wash your feet. Does he skip Matt? No. And then he keeps going, and then he comes to Judas. And does he know what Judas is about to do? Does he know that? And he says, I'm not washing your feet, you traitor. He washed them all. He washed them all. Did he understand? Yes. Be gentle to all. Maintain unity. Make every effort. Practice these things. Practice rejoicing. You have so many reasons. Can I say it again? Rejoice in the Lord. Their names are in the book of life. Your name is in the book of life. Rejoice in these things. Demonstrate gentleness to everyone. No harsh words. Don't let it get your dander up. It's not a biblical issue. How you doing? I told you it's easy to understand. The hard part's doing it. Are you rejoicing today? Are you being gentle with people today? Somebody got under your skin. You got a little angry. Somebody's being immature. Doesn't mean we overlook or condone if something is wrong. These are differences. They're part of life. Well, you don't respond as fast as I would, and you don't do it, and you don't spend your money the way I would, and you don't load the dishwasher the way I think you should, and you don't. Instead of saying something you're going to regret, go home and look in the mirror first. And realize you're not objective. Practice rejoicing, being grateful. Practice being gentle. Father, thank you this morning that Paul's words are really clear, concise, easy to understand, and a challenge to live and demonstrate. Lord, we need your help because we can let differences take a toll on us, and we can try to resolve them by having others conform to what we think. And Lord, if it's a biblical issue, if it's a moral issue, if it's right or wrong, we want what you want. But we know that you want unity in spite of our differences, that we can go together, we can be purposeful and yet partners. Help us contribute to protecting this partnership. Lord, that preventative medicine today will keep us from a greater cost in the future. Thank you that preventative medicine, preventative maintenance is always better than emergency surgery. Give us wisdom and understanding. And as Paul said in chapter 3, help us to be mature and to live what we know. And today we know we're supposed to maintain unity, always rejoice, and demonstrate gentleness. May we practice that today and in the day and the week ahead, we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Jack. Just a couple of announcements before you go today. This first one is just for you, Jack. I understand you don't like the way we do communion. I got the email. So next week, as we have done in the past, when we do communion, you come forward, receive the cups, and then go back and sit down. Next week, we're going to change that, where we're going to stay seated, and we'll pass the plates, where you can then pass the plates to the person next to you, and then they'll be passed all the way to the back. So come next week prepared. Just giving you that announcement, that heads up, so you're prepared and not thrown off by that next week. We're not coming forward to receive communion. We'll stay seated, and we'll pass the plates to you, and then you can receive. We'll still the cups will still be stacked the same way that they are now, and we'll still take the communion together. So hold the cup, wait till everybody has it, and then we'll still partake together in that way. But I'm changing that up next week. And then I see one family with children in here. Next week, we are starting a parenting class. So this is for the two of you, I guess. We're starting a parenting class. If this is something we would really encourage you to come to, Nate Acker is going to be teaching this class, and it'll be during the 10:30 service. So if you come, if you're able to come to the first service and then go to that class during the second service, a parenting class, we will do it during the children's church time. So after the songs, we can leave those of you who want to go to that parenting class, and it'll be during the second service during the children's church time. That way we'll have childcare for all the parents who want to go to that. And then with that, we are looking to provide a little bit of additional childcare in the first service, so that way you can still come to the first service and be here during the first service if you want to go to that class during the second service. So if there's somebody that's interested in coming and providing childcare during the first service, if you're available for that, come talk to one of us, and we would love to put you in a classroom with some kids during the first service, so parents can come to the first service and then go to that during the second service. And that'll be next Sunday, starting off during the second service, that class. And then, as Pastor Ian mentioned last week, we are getting ready to, this is the more significant announcement than what he had last week. We're getting ready to launch our pastoral search. So next Sunday, we are going live, if you will, with our pastoral search, Lord willing. We have a couple things little tweaks that we're still working out. We have this tool that is going to help us for candidates to be able to use to apply, to send their resumes to us, all these things. So we're getting that tool to finalize the tweaks worked out, the bugs worked out of that this week, and next Sunday that will go live. So the way that will kind of play out is next Sunday, all of you should receive an email with this link to apply. We're asking you to share that. So if you know of somebody that you would recommend, I guess, to apply to that, share that link with people. It'll go out in email. You'll receive that email to be able to apply. And then it'll be on our website. The job description, all of that stuff will be posted on the website. Point people in the direction of the website. You can go check that out. And then probably on our Facebook page as well. So next Sunday, we're going live with our pastoral search. And we're going to start receiving applications, resumes, and we're hopefully by the end of the month going to start interacting with candidates. And so that's exciting. It's an exciting time for us, and you'd be praying for that. Which leads us to the next announcement. The Friday the 13th, March the 13th, we are going to have another pastoral search prayer forum for you to come and participate in. So this will be a week and a half or so after we've launched our search, and we're going to have some updates for you hopefully at that point as to how that's going and where we're at in that process. So come be a part of that. Have some updates, have some question and answer time, some discussion time, and then a time of just prayer as we continue to move forward in this process. So we're in exciting times, right? Rejoice, right? We rejoice always in all situations and circumstances. And so we're in some exciting times here at Immanuel, and I'm looking forward to see what the Lord will do in the future here. So it's good to be here with you all this morning. And with that, you're free to go. Have a great Sunday.